And hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. So we have finally finished our tkinter tutorial, so now you can continue to something a bit more interesting. In this case, Beautiful Soup. Now I'm not going to make an entire slideshow and whatnot about Beautiful Soup because it's basic enough, so I didn't have to explain too much about what it is. What is Beautiful Soup? It's something you use to scrape web pages. What does it mean to scrape a web page, you may ask? Well, it means you basically get the data from web page. If we go like this, and on this website right here, you don't have this website, but I'll give you the source code in a second. We go to inspect, then here, everything here, if we use web scraping, we'll basically be copying the source code here. That's basically what we'll be doing. That is what web scraping is. We're basically taking entire website, bringing it to our computer, removing the data we don't want to see, and just showing the data we do want to see. You'll notice more about what I'm talking about later in the tutorial, but yeah. Okay, so that's the basics. Now let me show you this website. That would be right here. So this is the website. It's not very big. Basically, you can make it yourself. You don't even need this top part here. You can just do this if you wanted to. This is perfectly fine. So this is all you need. You can create your own version of it, whatnot. It is a little bit confusing here, but I did it for a reason. Why it's not formatted like this. This is how you normally would look at a website. So yeah, it's just basically, it has a header saying this is the title, and underneath a p tag, then another title here inside of its own little column, and whatnot. And now I'm going to keep it like this because I want to show you some features later on. Cool. So you can just copy this because it's so small. I don't really think it's necessary to publish the source code. It's so small, you know. Cool. Now we need a few things. Now here's my main.py. You'll notice that both my index.html and my main.py is here. And yeah. And now before we continue, what do you need to know in order to follow along with this course? Well, you don't need to know a lot. I would recommend you know at least a little bit of HTML because you'll be working with it. You'll be taking data from HTML page and whatnot. If you don't know anything about HTML, I do have a course on it being published as we speak, and you can go watch it on my YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description. And yeah, that's about it, that and basic Python. I also have a Python course on my channel and a full crash course coming soon. So I would recommend you go watch for that Python course if you don't know at least a little bit of Python. Cool. Now if you know these two, then we're good to go. So first let's open up the terminal because we need to install a few things. So I'm going to go to VS Code, terminal, new terminal. If you don't use VS Code, you don't have to necessarily do this part that I'm doing. You can just open up your own little terminal like this one right here. What we need to install is two things. So I'm going to say pip install, and since I suck at spelling beautiful, I'm just going to paste that there. And we also need LXML. LXML is required by Beautiful Soup 4. And Beautiful Soup 4 is what we're going to use in order to scrape a website. Cool. Now if you're not on a Linux distribution like me, an Arch-based distro, you might have to say Python-m or Python-free-m pip install. You know, just so basically you just might have to do Python-m like that. Or you might have to go Python-free-m to do this. You need to have Python installed though in order for pip to work. Cool. You might also not have pip installed, so just make sure you do. If you're on Windows, I do believe it does come with Python. If you're on a Ubuntu-based system, I'm pretty sure it doesn't come with Python. Anyhow, if you press this, it will install our requirements. Now while it does that, we can work here. And it's done. So here we first need to import Beautiful Soup. So I'm going to say from BS4. Not Beautiful Soup, but BS4. Import, and then we want to import Beautiful Soup. Cool. Now I'm just going to do this. Now, there's multiple ways we can go about this, but I'm just going to basically read this HTML page like it's a normal text file. Later on in the course, we'll be taking a real-life website and we'll be scraping it. But for right now, we just have to do this. We just gotta take this and read it like a normal text file. So I'm going to say with, and there's multiple ways you can read from a text file. I just prefer this way. Then here I can just say index.html. I say index.html because index.html. That's the web page I'm basically here. That's this web page. Cool. Now we can go back here and we can just say open it in read mode and as HTML page. Cool. Now here we need to read the content from the page. So I'm just going to say content is equal to HTML page.read. And if we wanted to, we can now print content, but it wouldn't really look like anything specific. So if we were to just python main.py here, so run the file, as you can see, it's just basic text. It's just put all the text inside of this right here and put it inside of here, or it displayed it here. So now we need to do a few things. First, we need to superify it, basically so Beautiful Soup can read it. Now I'm going to call this soup. You can call it whatever you want, but I think soup is a great name because we're going to superify it. So it's going to be Beautiful Soup, and in here we can pass in content, and of course you could have just put this inside of here instead of putting it inside of a variable first, but I find breaking things up into variables makes it a lot easier to understand. And in here we can just say as LXML. This basically means, okay, take this content and convert it to LXML. LXML is basically HTML. I'm not going to cover what it is really because it's not too important, but in a sense you can think of it as HTML. It's a kind of like a version of it, a form of it. And then of course we can just print soup instead of content. So now let's see what we get if we print out soup. As you can see, we get the same thing, but it stripped away a bunch of unnecessary spaces and whatnot. So we only have everything here. Of course, since we cannot read this, we can do something to make Beautiful Soup make it simpler to read. And this is by going .prettify. And this will just make it a bit more beautiful for the eyes. As you can see here, now it has like indentation and whatnot. This just makes it a bit simpler for us to read. Of course, we won't usually take an entire web page like this and just try and read it. For that, we can just go to the page and, we can inspect if we wanted that. So let's get into the actual power of Beautiful Soup. So let's say we want to find something specific in this right here. In this right here. For example, let's say we wanted to find this h1 tag. Now there is only one h1 tag, so in a sense this won't really matter too much. But let's say we want to find this h1 tag. Now that would be pretty simple. We can just go here, and I'm going to remove this print, and we can say, I'm going to call this header, or let's call this main content, because this will be the main content we want to see. I'm going to then say is soup.find, and in here I'm going to specify h1. So it's going to find the very first h1 element it sees, and then we can of course print it here, print main content, and we can probably split this up a bit, so like that. Now if we were to run it, as you can see, we get this is a title. If we go to the website itself, it says this is the title. If we inspect this, it says in h1 this is the title. So it did actually get that. But take note, this has a very, very thin line of something it can do, because you will notice here there's only one h1. But what if we were to specify a p tag? Because there's multiple p tags, but it only returns one of them. And the only one it returns is the first one it finds. For example, if I'm going to say here p, then it's going to return the first p tag it finds, which is this. This is some awesome template text. If I were then to run this code, this is some awesome template text. It didn't return the next one, it returned this one. So yeah, it returns the first. If you want them to return everything, so if you want it to return all of it, you can say find all. And by saying find all, you'll get this. It's an array with all of the p tags in here. So of course you can then say for paragraph in main content, we can then do this and just display par. And now I can just do that, and as you can see, we get our 4 paragraphs. These 4 paragraphs are the only paragraphs right here. Now the reason I did it like this is because you remember when I did everything with the Prettify, because I forgot to tell you, basically Prettify did that. So it took this, that looked so ugly, and it showed us how it can look better. So yeah, that's why I did that, so you can see that Prettify does something. Anyhow, but what if you wanted to get the text inside of a p tag? For this, we can just say like this and then dot text. This is a special beautiful soup thing. So basically, this has a special attribute text, and in that text, of course, is what's inside of the p tags. So now there aren't any p tags here. That's it for the first tutorial on Beautiful Soup. We just covered the most bare bones basic because we don't really want to go too deep into it in the first tutorial, because why should we? We can move slow and steady. Basically what we did is we read the content from an HTML file, then we soupified it with Beautiful Soup here into an LXML format, basically HTML, because here it's just text, but when we do this, it's HTML. Then we basically got the main content by saying soup.find or with find all, where find will just find the first one and find all will find all of them. And then we forward through the find all right here, we forward through it, and we printed out the text, so that will print out without the p tags of that specific element. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all again in the next video.